The helicopter had already become that infinite dot on the vast horizon. He had been on the island 15 minutes, yet his eyes were still riveted to that last sign of motorized civilization. He had bravely waved goodbye, a silent departure, and now courage was lacking when most needed. Second thoughts? He had said there would be none. How could there be when he picked the island himself, planned the departure, made up his mind? There would be no second thoughts. Hours after the black dot against the immense blue had faded, he spoke his last word. Goodbye, he said, and turned his back. No sleep, and he was wide awake. He had explored his island before sundown and found its bounty more plentiful than anticipated. In the dark, he had sat on the highest point, his back toward the old home, and tried to become aware of his new home. His mind, however, stopped him by interrupting occasionally with already distorted visions of the past. He had quickly become bothered by these remnants and had taken to roaming his territory, ending up on a small sandy beach where he watched the sunrise. In his mind, he knew it was his sunrise. The time was passing more quickly than he had wanted it to. A week had gone by. He hadn't marked it or tried in any way to remember the passing of days and nights, yet he knew. He had grown to love his island, and it had been a while since his mind had reminded him of the past home. He had also grown to love his own body, which was quickly darkening to the color of raw earth and growing steadily as he worked each day to fashion a leak-proof living structure. The weather had been fine up to this point, but he knew it couldn't last. Before sleeping each night, he mused over the fact that he was slowly changing to fit his island, but the island remained the same. Last night he had dreamed and remembered when he woke early in the morning. He did not like to think about his dream because most of it was of his old home. He had dreamed of automobiles, airplanes, records, radios, escalators, electric lights, trains, boats, and of his friends. It was a painful dream of a haunted mind, a mind haunted by the bright flash of reflected sunlight off windows in high-rise buildings, a mind haunted by the ever-increasing noise of the chaotic city, a mind haunted by empty, meaningless faces, a mind haunted by the stare of a barren beach at sunset. Tonight, he promised himself, there would be no dreams. He watched the rocks scuttle down the slow slope of his hill. When it reached the bottom, it slowed, then thumped lightly into the trunk of a sun-scorched tree. He stood up and turned round on his pedestal, looking for some sign of change in the weather. No cloud was in sight, and not a breeze touched his dark body. When he had finished, his feet automatically started their daily path down the mound, following the same course as the rock, but passing the tree. The sand had scorched his feet so many times before, but now he refused to allow its meager proddings into his mind. He was stronger than the sun, and he did not scream in pain. This was his island, and nothing could make him leave. He waded into the ocean till the water reached his knees. Staring down, he was calmed by the reflection of his own face in the crystal-clear water. He could almost see the millions of microorganisms which were swimming about his legs. He bent down, cupped his hands, and lifted some water to his face. The salt tasted good to him. He opened his hands and watched as the droplets of clear water fell in slow motion into the ever-deepening muddy color of a disturbed sea. As the enlarged waves lapped at his thighs, and the first raindrop fell on his outstretched arms, he lifted his face to the sky in smiling anticipation. The storm had come and gone quickly. His island had hardly felt its effect, but he had reacted quite the opposite. He had run around his island watching the rain fall on the trees. He watched a small trickle run down his hill. He watched as the sand grew moist under the slight pelting of the warm rain. He had a good time, and did something he hadn't done for years. He had laughed. Night came quickly after the storm. As he crawled into his home, he inhaled deeply and held his breath, savoring the smell of his island. It was a damp smell. It was a raw smell. It was a pure smell. It was a clean smell. He lay back and looked down his body, past his feet, through the opening in the meager hut. Mine, he thought as the stars slowly twinkled. Mine, he thought as the waves lapped the beach. Mine, he thought as a bug crawled slowly towards his feet. Mine, he thought, and fell asleep. She was swimming in his ocean, and soon she would reach the shore of his island. He had been watching her for over half an hour, but she hadn't seen him. As she walked slowly out of the ocean, he thought, no, it couldn't be. When she lay down on the beach, he was sure it was her. Debbie, he thought softly to himself. Debbie, he said as he stood up and revealed his hiding place. Debbie, he called and ran toward the figure on the beach. He slowed down as he approached the back of the figure. Debbie, he said warmly. The figure began to turn. Debbie, he said and put his hand softly on the moving shoulder. Debbie, he said as he saw that he was facing himself. Debbie, his mind screamed as he ran from himself. Debbie, he called, running through the woods that reached out to attack his passing body with branches and thorns. Debbie, he called, seeing her as she stood on his mound, arms outstretched, waiting. Debbie, he screamed, running up the mound and slipping back almost as fast. Debbie, he was crying now as he reached for her hand. Debbie, he said as he hugged the air. Oh, Debbie, he sighed, as he fell alone down the mound. Debbie, he moaned, kissing the deceptive earth. Debbie, his mind said, as he became one with the island. Then he woke. The island had changed. It was no longer his. He knew that something had happened. He couldn't see it. The island looked the same, but it felt differently. When he swam in the ocean, he knew it was no longer his. When he climbed the mound, there was too much pull, making him run out of breath. When he walked on the beach, it no longer burned his feet. The woods left him alone. They no longer reached out for him, scratching him. Instead, they seemed to shrink away from him. There was no place for him to go. He was confused and frightened. He sat down in his hut and cried. 10 days since the change. 10 days of the island's ignorance. 10 days of seeking. 10 days of not finding. He stumbled slowly up the mound, his eyes staring straight ahead out of a sunburned face. The hot wind blew past his drying body, chafing it more. He spent all day on the mound, turning round and round, searching, searching, searching. He had had nothing to eat for 4 days, and he was growing weaker every minute. He no longer could walk. Crawling was his only form of travel. He was in the middle of the woods looking out at the bright glare of the beach. He was crawling slowly toward that beach, that sun, that sand, that water. He must reach it. He must. He had been lying on the beach now for a day, waiting for it to happen. His body was badly burnt, and there was little moisture left in his flaking skin. He was past feeling the pain of his body. The pain of waiting had taken care of that. As dusk began, he felt a slight but sudden movement under his body, and he knew it had begun. A few minutes later, he felt the second movement. It wasn't long after that the separate movements never stopped and became one. He couldn't see what was happening, but he knew. He could feel each tiny particle of sand pushing into his skin, moving slowly through his body, filling it. He tried to move his fingers, but they were no longer his. He tried to speak, but his mouth was full of sand. He looked up at the sky for the last time. Then his eyes filled slowly with the sand. His mind was the last to become sand. And at the very instant before it was done, his brain smiled as it realized that the island had never been his. It had only been waiting for the right moment, the moment to make him part of it. A silent laugh was cut off as it was finished. The quiet night crept slowly over the empty beach, the empty woods, the empty mound, and the island sighed in its loneliness.
Creative writing, English 221.
The jam just broke.
Oh, that excuse won't hold water.
Get those men loaded.
Yes, sir. Where's the nearest bar?
I need some sport pictures.
Take a picture of me. I'm a sport.
Man, look at those thighs.
Yeah. I'm a naval man myself.
You have any bags, sir?
No, son. I left her at home.
Mommy, Georgie stretched my hair.
Marge used to go out with a basketball player.
Did he commit any fouls?
The window just broke.
That thing is a real pain.
All George thinks about is plumbing.
Yeah, he's a pipe dreamer.
Sailor, you better shine those shoes.
Yes, sir. I'll toe the line.
Had this feeling before in my life, just like I know what comes next. At the point where hurt has no pain, and I won't settle but for the best. Got some tricks up my sleeve that you can't see, and I will use them before my time. But things are good now, Lord knows I've seen some bad, and I get it all together in my mind. Things are coming up like roses from the past. Ways I used to act are fading really fast. The simpleness of life has taught me where it's at, and I know if it weren't for desires and the truth, I wouldn't last. I am no different than the reflection in the glass. The music that you hear is off from me. It's just a way of showing off my head, and my thoughts on life are plain to see. This song's not special to anyone but me. If you'd like to pass it off as a silly tune, like the chance to open up my heart, like budding roses coming up in June.
For my timid girlfriend on her 19th birthday. One short of a score, you're standing just shy of the 24-yard line. First down, 3 to go. Follow the idea. In the beginning, I started upside down. Eventually, I was stretched out straight and began showing my inabilities in different directions, crawling and rambling along, waiting for American Bandstand. I gave it a yay because it was easy to dance to. A leader piloting an electric train, zooming through dreams in a ceramic tunnel. There was Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and on June 16th, a cake and a candle. Mrs. Freeney is my name, after blowing out the 5th one. Coloring wasn't my game. I painted a green face. So did Van Gogh, but nobody yelled at him. Oh, what's the difference? I still passed. During the days of warmth was a magician. 1, 2, 3, poof! I am Ramar of the jungle. Along with my magic jungle guides, we would struggle our way through the thick bushes until someone yelled, "Dinner time!" The trees were now bare. Take out your math books. What are 5 plus 2? 8? Spell dog. D-O-G. Knee. N-E-E. Who is the father of our country? Elvis Presley? What do I take this note home for? No television for a week? 8 times in a row. Who made us? Heaven forbid if you answered anything but, God made us. From here I was driven. It was not a question of wanting to believe, but of having to believe. Or else you are doomed, baby. So I prayed and went to church, getting a little bit older and a little bit wiser. I thought more. Through the history books and ages of people, he was a cow, a statue, the sun or the moon. But mine hung helplessly on a cross. From reading, he was a good man, and he prayed to a heavenly spirit, his father. He died for the things I did wrong, or was going to do wrong. I figured he loved me, but he didn't even know me. I didn't know John Kennedy, but I loved him, wearing one of his campaign buttons, but I couldn't vote. I heard he was a good man. Sitting at my desk in the afternoon, Mother Superior said you were shot. Walking through the front door, you were gone. Running into the bushes, this time I was caught, crying, why him? I wasn't hungry. It's so confusing, but his spirit lives on, just like the guy on the cross. I kept living physically and still more candles to blow out. It was called maturing, getting riper. So off to the city to see what I could see. Alexander and Alexander Inc. Hot pretzels here. Stop and go, stop and go. Where's a cop, sir? A girl down the street is getting raped. Me? Get a cop, son? But I'll be late for work. Ask somebody else. This air is getting worse every day, said the cab driver, while his hypocritical exhaust pipe was producing enough smoke for 100 cabs. What a joke. I shut my eyes and made a wish. I dared not throw a penny into Market Street. There were enough riots in the world. Oh, Reading Railroad, take me through the ceramic tunnel, not high school. History and all its conflicts and wars. Science with its this is zoic and that is zoic. But it got me a diploma. Rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief, doctor, lawyer, Indian. A game. Where have you gone, Geronimo? Off into the wilderness? I sat under a tree. Above me a rainbow of colors as the sun shone through the leaves. I dreamt and I thought. Somebody gave us such a perfect globe. He couldn't have been human. No human is perfect. We shape it in our imperfect way. We create trust, hate, love, war, happiness, hunger, greed, etc., etc., etc. Creation is mutual, and the beat goes on. Try to rate that record, Dick Clark.
rainy night that we met in town. Barbara said that she'd been around. Well, I had my name in Latin, she's a maid. She took my drinks on up to the stage. Well, she said she was a dancer, and she liked the way I sang. She waited for an answer. I told her I could not stay around. I told her to be a good girl, show me what you can do. She said to do what I do best. I'm gonna need some help from you. But sometimes I sing quite a few to the walls, and they don't applaud. That's okay, 'cause the man behind the bar still claps for a honky-tonk star. Out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I had my name there in lights, and up on the marquee, it's my name she did. She says, Bobby E. Day is gonna sing here tonight. She came out with me to Pittsburgh. I was playing there with my band. I seen Harry up to Fillmore. Me and Barbara watched him make his stand. And sometimes I sing quite a few to the walls, and they don't applaud. That's okay, 'cause the man behind the bar still claps for a honky-tonk star.
Tale for New Travelers, a play by Angie Grisafi. The setting, a main road which bends to the left. Forking from the right is a smaller road, badly paved and patched many times over. On the area between the roads there is a gray steel desk and chair. Enos is sitting at the desk, which has not even an ink blotter on it. Enos is a not young, but not middle-aged looking man with definite masculine features, thick black mustache and thick black hair. He is dressed in white, and he dons a black banded white fedora. It is nearly dawn. Enter Fontaine, walking briskly, searching through his pockets.
Oh, excuse me, sir. I beg your pardon, really, but you see, I'm kind of...
Going on a trip to the western seaboard.
Yeah. It's a gift.
From your parents.
Oh, excuse me, sir. I do beg your pardon, really, but on my way I seem to have misplaced the map given to me by my guide, and I would just like to ascertain if this is the intersection where I am to turn right.
You are to take the good road on the left to the right way of bringing you there.
Left?
Yes.
Excuse me, but I'm sure that it is right.
What is right?
What I must take. I must turn right. I'm certain, sir. You see, my guide has said to take what is right. You see, to bring me to my...
Wrong destination. And what a strong, wrong sense of destination you have. I am Enos, and they have written and sent to me of you. You are Fanton, are you not?
Why, yes.
Very well, then. You are to take what is given. What is left
But my guide...
does not know. Now it shall be a pleasant journey as predicted. No foul weather, no untimely accidents along the way.
Excuse me, sir. Again, sir, but whatever is it that my guide does not know?
The consequences. I do say you are a most unpersuasive type to deal with. Just who is your guide?
Guide is my guide, sir.
Guide. I should have known. Mr. I.N.H. Guide, travel guide. Well, it is of little wonder that we are getting you nowhere on your journey after being so subversively influenced by Mr. Guide. You might as well be seated while I attempt to clarify the situation for you. Many young men come here under Guide's influence, Fontaine. You are not the only one, let me assure you. And you I will save, as I have the others.
Oh. Why, yes. Oh, yes. How right to take what is left. To take what is given. I see, sir. And excuse me. I beg your pardon, really, for not realizing what I must do. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I understand you're not understanding. And be off, young Fanton.
Farewell. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I watched as the tall white clouds wheeled around the sky, merging and emerging from one another as children in a snowbank. Hank walked slowly up the gradual slope to the chair in which I sat. No luck yet, sir, but we're not giving up. We'll keep searching until dark. The words came out slightly jumbled, and I wondered for an instant if his mustache was as heavy as it looked. I paused in my thoughts to thank him and to ask him not to give up the search. He hurried down the hill to continue exploring the countryside. She always did like the clouds. She would just lie in the grass and stare at the sky while the big white clouds chased themselves across the wide expanse of blue. For her, this was a time spent in great joy and contentment. I never found out until just now what she saw in those clouds. Now I understood. If you concentrate long enough, you become one with the clouds. You fly across the heavens with them, losing all sense of time and place. It's a wonderful feeling. No cares or troubles, just a great sense of peace. Hank came back up the hill, a little faster this time. "Sir," he shouted, "we found some tracks going down toward the river." As calmly as possible, I answered, "Thank you, son. Get back to the others. You're probably getting close." The river. She always used to say that someday she would take a boat and leave, just sail to the end, or as she used to say, the beginning. She would sit on the bank of the river and throw small sticks in and watch their mad swirlings in the eddies near the shore. For hours and hours, she would just sit there telling me about the river, all about the boats that had gone by and how some of the sailors had waved to her. We would then turn and walk down the patch by the river in order to go past the willow tree. How she loved that tree. As often as she could during the day, she would spend her time sitting on the lowermost branches. There she would twist the leaves around her slender fingers, laughing like a carefree child, except when one of the branches broke. Then she would pout for a little while. After a while, though, she would laugh and everything would be all right again. When it was time for us to go, she would jump down and run away, flinging a "Come and find me" over her shoulder. This time Hank shouted up at me, "We think she's at the mill. We'll have her for you in a few minutes." I solemnly nodded down to him, and he hurried away to rejoin his companions. The mill. This was always the last place I would look after she ran away from me at the tree. It was kind of like a game or secret we shared. She would always hide right inside the door of the mill by the water wheel. When I walked past, she would jump out and I'd be surprised. This always made her happy, even though the happening was always the same. Hank once again walked up the hill. This time he walked very slowly, holding his hat in his hand. "We found her at the mill. Somebody beat her and then tied her to the water wheel. Why would anybody want to hurt her? The fellas found some other tracks and are going to follow them to see where they lead." "No, I guess not. Here they come now." Lou and the rest of the men walked up the other side of the hill. Lou looked at me and asked why with his eyes. Because she was always somewhere else, looking at things or doing something. She never had time for me, always for others. "What do you mean?" asked Hank. Lou turned to him and said, "The tracks lead here, and look at his hands." Hank looked at the red stains on my hands. Suddenly he lunged. I wondered what she was doing as Hank's hands closed tightly on my throat.
Here I am, all alone with my cat and my book and my thoughts and all my possessions rolled up in a spherical ball. I can do what I want, say what I want, feel what I want, eat what I want. I can even stand stark naked in the middle of my living room and shout countless obscenities. I can contemplate, punctuate, postulate, scintillate, and even masturbate if I want, 'cause I'm all alone. I can dream all the dreams I've never dreamed, count the cracks in the ceiling, wiggle my toes, bite my nails, or belch loud enough to upheave my entire lunch, 'cause I'm all alone, and it's lousy.
The Naked and the Nude, with apologies to Robert Graves. The nude can be very crude and shrewd, but the naked, oh, the naked. I can see her now, blonde hair all naked, giggling, wiggling, but not nude. I wouldn't want her to be crude, not in this situation. The nude are boring, but you can make it when she's naked.